All right, welcome to season one, episode two of Orange and Black with Tug and Zach. I'm Tug, he's Zach.
Yep, and then orange and black.
Yes, there we go. Well, we've got a great show in store for you today. We're going to be covering the last couple games, which were big wins back to back. After we talk about that, we'll take a look at the current standings, and then we're going to look into some of the prospects and give you a little report on what's going on there. And then, of course, our pack break and this week in Flyers history with some good video. And then finally, a preview for tonight's game, as well as some footage from our experience there tonight, since we're going to be going. Thomas, Zach, and I are going to be in attendance for this very important game. It's the most important game of the season because
Because the next one on the schedule, baby. Let's go.
let's go.
The first time I ever heard that was Doug Peterson. He did the lineup for the Stadium Series game that we went to at the Link.
Biggest game of the year, right? Why is it the biggest game? Because it's the next one you got, right? It's the next one on the schedule. So here we go.
I've actually used that in some of my messages to teams in the past. I remember my first start for Gloucester Catholic against Christian Brothers
Yes.
Academy.
Yep.
But I remember saying to the team beforehand, it was the most important game of the season because it's the next one. And they had my back that game.
I remember just being shocked that we were hanging with them because they were a monster.
I will say this too. I had a stick that was an inch too big. I had a
Really?
26-inch stick. And to this day, I believe that if I had a 25-inch stick, I would have saved that. We would have won. And
Holy
I would have
yeah.
been able to start the rest of the season my sophomore year. Shout out to Chris Licio, though. Love him. Love him. He was my goalie partner. He was a senior at the time.
Yeah.
That was such a cool season. My first year on varsity.
Guy Goudreau was the
Guy
coach,
Goudreau
right?
was the coach. It was such a cool experience.
So getting back to why it's a big game, not just because it's the next one, although that's always the biggest reason, but we are playing one of the teams that's ahead of us in the standings. So we'll talk a little bit about that. First, why don't we take a look back on the past week, especially those games midweek, back to back, huge dubs.
Yeah, big wins, especially that Capitals game. Tom Wilson really stirred the pot against us, right? And you can see it kind of lit a fire under the Flyers. They're very feisty and going at it, and we were able to overpower them in that win. Huge win, obviously, because of the standings, but also just to set the identity for this team, and they're willing to back each other up.
It was, yeah.
Okay.
York got hammered behind the net. Might have been Tom Wilson. And it was a kind of a cheap shot. And Drysdale came right in, went after him. It was his first fight of his professional career. That was kind of the turning point. Big turning point it was.
Mm-hmm.
But not to me as impressive as what happened the next night. To be able to go
Yeah.
on the road the next day against a really good team, like top five in the league, I would say.
They arrived in Minnesota with a mission. I think a lot of people were calling it a scheduled loss.
Yeah.
Obviously, the second half of back-to-back travel, they were rested. We were obviously not rested. And the crazy part was we were losing 2-1. And for a team that just played 24 hours prior, for them to go into that building and they were able to come back. That Owen Tippett snipe, he played probably his two best games of the season,
Yes, back to
Wednesday and
back.
Thursday.
Best player
And
in the ice.
the perfect time of year for him to finally be catching fire, right?
And this is a time of year, I think it was 2 years ago, when he was catching fire and he was playing out of his mind, then he got hurt. And then he just hasn't really had that kind of performance since until this week.
I remember listening to the Flyers Wild game in the 2023-2024 season, and Owen Tippett had this wicked 360
Oh, I remember
spinorama
that.
backhand bar down goal.
Yeah, man.
But I was listening to it on the radio. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see that. And I mean, he was electric. But then this year, I think they've taken a step, right? And the fact that they are able to beat the Wild on the second half of a back-to-back, so much emotion with the fact that Bobby Brink got traded regardless of whether he played or not. I would have had weird feelings seeing Bobby Brink score against us. I'd be like, oh,
Which he probably would have, because that
mhm.
just is what happens when
Like
he,
Ollie Lexell scored on us like
right,
against
yeah.
the Senators earlier this year. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
But the fact they were able to beat that team on Thursday night, but it all continues tonight.
Such an important game. Got to have that game. The other reason we have to have it is I've gone to like 7 games with you, maybe eight counting that Phantoms game, and I've yet to come home with a win. We leave every game listening to Coldplay's Fix You, just so you know like how this has gone. And I don't want to hear that song tonight. I just don't want to hear it. Anyway, that's pretty much everything in regards to the week past. The next thing I want to talk about is the prospects, how they're looking so far. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, just seeing the year that Martone's had in Michigan State and seeing him live and in person at
Yeah.
Beaver Stadium was really cool this year. He is looking like a superstar in
Yeah.
the making.
You're not kidding. I know I sent you a list this week of like current standings for NHL prospects, and Martone was ranked third. He was ahead of a guy like Brady Martin, who was picked right before Martone. I think he went five. James Hagens, he was ranked about 10 spots under Martone, which was good to see. So unfortunately, there was no other flyer in the top 50. I do believe there are some studs there waiting in the wings that just aren't getting the proper respect just yet. But anyway, that's one prospect I wanted to touch on. You had two that you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I think last week there was news that the Flyers had signed this guy, Noah Powell from Arizona State, and he played his first game with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms last night. He looked pretty good, and his story is just really incredible. I think he has some kind of hearing loss. He developed this really good ability to read lips. Every time he's in a locker room, he needs to be in a spot where he can see the coach's face. He lit it up in the USHL, 40 plus goals, something crazy for the Dubuque Fighting Saints, I think they're
Oh,
called,
wow.
right? So they're cool Johnny Gaudreau connection there. Eventually, I think he went and played for Ohio State
Woof.
University, and obviously he had a poor experience there,
Yeah.
as is common. And then he actually went from college to junior. So he played in the USHL, played in the NCAA with Ohio State, and then played in the OHL. This past season, he played for Arizona State.
Oh,
And
wow.
he's had solid production, so he's got a chance to really prove himself over the next couple of years. And yeah, we're definitely wishing the best for his career.
One more guy we want to talk. Actually, I'll start this
Yeah.
off. So, David Yurchak, you remember our podcast last week? Zach was pretty excited about the trade. Me, not so much. But Zach kind of had me feeling better about it after we had that discussion until I saw this highlight from Yurchak's first shift in his first game with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. So, I'm going to play that for you, Zach, just in case you haven't already seen it 15 times and cringed. But here is David Yurchak's first shift as a Phantom.
Played it from the left point, and a shot from the point from Pino. It's blocked, stolen, shot, score! And rushing into barehand, it is Sandis Vilmanis in his first game back with the Charlotte Checkers, and the Phantoms having a tough time getting it out of the zone. So Sandis Vilmanis returns and scores 113 into the game for his 9th of the year.
He redeems himself later on, and towards the end of the game, he ties it up.
Running the show on the power play. Blanc is out there. Peterson for Juracek. Scores! David Juracek for the top of the right circle. Snipes to the far post. It's a power play goal. It is Phantom's debut. David Juracek has tied the game at 4.
I was really not happy about this trade there, and then I saw that, and I thought, okay, all's forgiven. Like snipe, snipe.
Perfect shot. And that was a clutch goal too. I think they were losing 4-3. I think they went down like 4
They were
nothing.
down 4-0. That's right, and
And
he
that
ends up
was the
tying
goal.
it.
Played last night and he was a +1, so he's
Yep.
making solid progress there.
All right, so now last week we had a pack break from a 2024-25 Series 2 Upper Deck Hockey. This week we're going all the way back to like 90, I think it was, Upper Deck's first season of hockey. So we're going to go do a little pack break action. He'll open one, I'll open the other. So we'll go hit that and then we'll be right back. All right, pack number one of 1990-91 Upper Deck High Series. All right, so right off the bat, we got a team checklist. Keith Primo, number one draft pick. That's cool. Future Flyer, one of our favorite Flyers, especially after that 5 overtime goal game. So that's actually a great card. I think he was the 4th pick in the draft that year. So that was one of the primo cards that people were trying to get. No pun intended, Zach. All right, who else we got here? Troy Gamble, don't remember him. Doug Crossman. I get a lot of his cards, but never with the Flyers. Interesting thing about him, he was part of the Canadian team for the Canada Cup. You look at the starting lineup for that team, and it was like Gretzky, Lemieux, Yzerman, Coffey, and Doug Crossman. Keenan was the coach. I think there might have been some nepotism there. All right, Glenn Chico Resch, another former Flyer. This is one of those cool hero cards where we got Jimmy Watson back in the day. So that's a Glenn Chico Resch and a Red Kelly hero card. Red Kelly, pretty cool. Kevin Stevens. This is a bit of a problem because number one, he's a Penguin. Number two, Zach got a Kevin Stevens autograph card out of a pack that we really would have wanted anything but. That's a little sore point there. Sergio Momesso, good name, nice Italian name. Dave Babich, I think he's a future Flyer. There's that Brad Marsh guy we were talking about. There he is with Sans helmet there. he and Craig McTavish's trademark. And then finally, Vezina Trophy winner Patrick Waugh. That's a neat card. I don't remember ever seeing that card before, so that's kind of fun. And then, oh my gosh, he closed it off with a Ronnie Hextall, baby. That's a pack and a half there, guy. Good luck matching that. So I'm going to put Hextall over here. I think we'll put the Patrick Waugh over there. And let's see if you unseat any of those cards.
All right. Successful first pack from Dada. There we go. Young Guns. Oh, but not Pavel Bure. Gary Volk, Young Guns here. John Bice. Basil McRae. That's a great name.
That's a great goon name, and he was a goon.
That's a great picture, too, with the face. Yep. Brian Hayward. He sounds like a baseball player, right?
Interesting thing about Brian Hayward, when the Flyers played the Canadiens in the Wales Conference Finals in '87, Canadiens were the reigning Stanley Cup champs that year, won the Cup the year before with Waugh. But he had a sophomore slump that next year. So when the Flyers played the Canadiens, Waugh was on the bench, and this guy was in net for the whole series, that six-game series, which put us in the finals against the Oilers.
All right, Christian Ruutu. Rob DeMeo.
Future Flyer.
Star rookie.
That's cool. That's kind of cool. Yeah, he went on to be a Flyer. He was in like the Flyers teams right before the Lindros era really kicked into high gear.
Okay. Trevor Linden. Sergei Makar.
Russian.
Oh, so rookie team.
Rookie, and he was really good, but he's also really old. He was probably like 35 his rookie year because that was when the Russians first started coming over. He may have been on the team that lost in Lake Placid.
Wow. Randy Carlisle. Joey Coker.
Closer, another goon.
Patrick Waugh,
nice.
All-Star skills. And then
Carl Dykehouse, Future Flyer.
World Juniors. All right. Yeah, your pack was better.
Yeah, I don't think any of yours supplanted mine, but
I'm not bitter.
All right, we're back. We hope you enjoyed the pack break. Now we're going to take a look back this week in Flyers history. A lot of big things happened. And the one that I want to talk about specifically is the fact that 30 years ago, it's actually 30 years ago this weekend, that something happened for the last time in Flyers history. And it happened to be the last time a Flyer played a game without a helmet. So I want to ask, first of all, do you know who the last helmetless Flyer was?
It was in 96, right?
1996.
I don't know too many Flyers from that era outside of like Lindros, LeClaire. Too old for a Broad Street Bully to be still.
Too old for Broad Street Bully,
right?
Yeah. He actually started in 1979, and that was the year the helmet rule was implemented. And basically, anyone from that point on had to wear a helmet, but anybody that had played before that rule was grandfathered in. If you ask most Flyer fans who the last Flyer was to play without a helmet, 80% in honor of the jersey number 8 would say Brad Marsh. Not to be confused with Brandon Marsh. He played without a helmet for years, and he'd moved on a few years prior. And then the Flyers acquired this player for the 1994-95 season. And he played a couple years, wore an alternate captain's day with the Flyers, and was named to the All-Star game his last season with the Flyers, which was the only year he ever played in an All-Star game. Do you want to take a stab?
Was it like Paul Coffey or something?
No, but you're really close. Former Oiler.
So like this guy isn't known to be a Flyer. He'd be known to be something else.
He'd be known as an Oiler, yeah. Now he won 3 cups with the Oilers, won 1 with the Rangers, but he actually started his career in 1979 with the Boston Bruins. And ironically enough, he wore a helmet for 5 years, his first 5 seasons, and then he missed a whole season. He was in jail for a year. And then when he came back, traded him to the Oilers, and then he went on to win multiple cups there, went on to wear the captaincy at one point, probably after Gretzky and Messier had moved on. But amazing story, when he was in jail during that time, the family of the woman who passed away came to talk to him and to try to get closure and try to get some healing going. And they continued to visit him and actually forgave him, which was an amazing story. But yeah, the player's name, Craig McTavish.
Oh, yeah.
So Craig McTavish, the last player in Flyers history, and actually the last player in NHL history to go without a helmet. The Flyers acquired him as a free agent. He went on to play a couple years. And what's interesting is when he came out of prison and went to the Oilers, one of his first games back after being in prison was on November 14th against the Philadelphia Flyers in the first game after Pelly died. in a DUI accident,
Mm.
just like McTavish had spent a year in jail for that. So really crazy story. Comes back. If you remember, the Flyers and Oilers had talked about postponing the game, but they decided to play the game. The first couple periods, it was really tight, and the players were kind of like, you almost feel bad, like after what they were going through. 1-1 game late in the second period, the tension finally blew the top off, and Craig McTavish, fresh out of prison, and a Flyer who, like McTavish, would also go on to coach his team that he played for that day, fought. And I'm going to show you a clip of the fight real quick, and you can see who that player was. But yeah, there's McTavish, fresh out of jail. And there's number 22.
Oh my God, is that Tocchet?
Tocchet, yeah.
Wow.
So Tockett's like, I don't care where he was the past year. I'm beating the crap out of him, and he did.
Oh my gosh.
And this was November 14th, 4 days after Pelly's accident. But from that point on, the game totally changed. There were 6 goals scored in the third period, and the Flyers prevailed 5-3 with Darren Jensen in net because the backup for Pelly Lindbergh, Bob Froese, was hit in the nuts in practice that week, and it was so severe he couldn't play. So that's just a little bit of history there. One last postscript I want to throw on there. That same guy that traded McTavish and had signed him as a free agent, Bobby Clark, 45 years ago this week, scored his 1,000th point in a game that is going to explain why the NHL decided to change the rule about helmets. And I'm going to show you that clip next.
He built his career reputation on effort and grit. It was symbolic then that on March the 19th, 1981, Clark would achieve one of the most important career NHL milestones in unforgettable fashion. The Flyers were hosting their old rivals, the Boston Bruins, at the Spectrum. Early in the game, a Reggie Leach slap shot caught Clark in the head.
Reggie Leach.
Yeah, a Riverton rifle.
Flyers leader was bloody but unvowed. He shook off a scenario that would have sent many players to the locker room, and he remained in the game. And in typical Clark fashion, later in the game, he scored his own rebound to register point number 1,000. Clark remains the only player to amass at least 1,000 points entirely in uniform of the orange and black. But as the manner in which he achieved the milestone would suggest, it's really about far more than the numbers when Bobby Clark's career is being discussed.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool? So 45 years later, and he's still the only Flyer to do it, 1,000 points in orange and black.
Who on this team you think could break that?
On this current team, Mitch Cobb, maybe? I don't know. I always thought Lindros would, but he didn't. I think he got to 900.
Wow, if Lindros didn't.
Giroux got to around 900, but yeah, the guy that hit him with that slap shot, his nickname was the Riverton Rifle, and he had a slap shot and a half. And the fact that he could take one of them right in the noggin, just bleed all over his sweater and just score and get his 1,000 point it was apropos and poetic at the same time.
I don't know if you noticed, but after he scored that goal, I think like Reggie Leach was on his line and celebrating when they gave him a butt tap.
I did notice that. Yeah. All right. So just a little bit of this week in Flyers history. I think now we're going to get ready. We're actually leaving pretty soon for the game. We've got a neat night in store. So we're getting wined and dined by the Flyers tonight. So we're going to go there a little early, get to go into probably that Hall of Fame room. Remember that place we snuck into that time?
Yep.
This time we'll be able to go in there and not get kicked out. We actually did okay last time, but we didn't get any of the free stuff. So hopefully we get some free stuff.
I want to get some free stuff.
So we'll report back on that. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll be right back and let you know how things turned out. Well, we're back. Great night, great game, not a great outcome. I'll start by saying that normally you get a point in a game like that where we're outshot and outplayed to some degree. You kind of chalk it up as a moral victory. But when you look at the developments in the standings last night, you're not going to believe this. So here's the standings before we left, right? So you see the teams that are in the hunt. So you got these 9 teams vying for the 5 spots. Every team ended up getting at least a point. Most of them got 2 points. So you see Carolina went from 88 to 90, not that we're going to catch them. Penguins went from 79 to 81. Islanders went from 79 to 81. Bruins went from 78 to 80. The Red Wings were the only other team really that only got a point. Columbus, of course, got 2. Ottawa got 2. And we got 1. So couldn't have been much worse in terms of the overall standings picture from before we left to when we got back. Um, we did get a point, but so did everybody, except everyone else got two. Damaging night, I guess. Am I going a little bit overboard, or how bad of a night was it in terms of the standings?
It was rough. I think they needed to win in regulation.
Yeah,
And when you see the fourth line out there with a minute left, the Flyers are basically signaling that they're playing for a tie.
yeah.
And I think that is malpractice. And I think they should have went for the win. Not so far as to pull the goalie, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. But I think they really should have sold out and really tried to get it done in regulation. It was a bummer. It was a great night. A lot of highlights from the night, but the outcome.
I think the big moment I look back on and think, boy, back to back to back power plays there at the end of the second, beginning of the third. Barkey was just annoying the heck out of that team, and they were just taking cheap shots left and right. So he bought us a lot of power play time, and we didn't even get close. Like, we just stink when it comes to the power play, and it cost us again. Probably the difference between us gaining 2 points versus losing 1 point on Columbus and losing 1 point on just about everybody but Detroit.
Yeah, I think our best players tonight were all Phantoms at one point this
Yeah,
year. Like you had Emil Andre, he was the only one putting shots on net, really. I think
yeah,
we another game where we're under 20 shots, right?
yep.
Alex Bump with the goal, who it's like his fourth NHL game ever. He's the only one to get a goal this game, which is ridiculous. And then Denver Barkey drawing those penalties. Vladar also, who wasn't even on the team last year, he's one of those awesome signings. Those were the heroes of our game and just couldn't get it done. So just an ultimate failure by the big guys.
On a positive note, you were able to get a free thing. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I got a Michkov autograph signed puck. Insert my dad throwing up a picture right
Yes,
here.
yeah.
We got that because we put the down payment on season tickets for next year. I was able to pick between all these different pucks, and as soon as I saw Michkov, I was like, come
Oh,
on,
yeah.
that's the one you gotta get. You know what I'm saying? There was
Oh,
a
I know.
Grabenkin one that tempted me.
That was the only one. Yeah.
We got some koozies. I can give like three highlights of the night. One highlight of the night was the fact that you had guessed Alex Bump and Emil Andre to like score.
That's
Those were
right.
like your two, and they end up combining on the only goal, which is nice.
Yeah.
That was a highlight. You trying accidentally like trying the vodka, not knowing it was alcohol. That was funny.
Yeah. Disgusting.
The Michkov puck was great. Gritty. I really liked The Office. I didn't know how they're gonna pull it off. They had some nice set pieces. They had like sticky note giveaways. We got great time with me and Thomas and my dad.
The outcome wasn't what we had hoped for, but it was a great time. I'll agree. And, hopefully not as damaging as it looks. It feels like the sky is falling. But, they have a few days off now to get ready for a late surge. I can get that offense scoring and get the team back into the picture. But for now, it's looking a little bleak, but hope springs eternal and spring's right around the corner. So hang in there with us, guys. Tune in again next week. Hopefully we'll have some better news to share. I know this guy, after going to, I guess it was at 8 losses now this year, and he still put down a deposit for season tickets next year. So that shows you what kind of fan he is. Hopefully they reward you somehow besides just a puck.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, gang. Well, tune in again next week. Thanks again for checking out Orange and Black with Tug and Zack.